Big weekend coming up at Santa Anita, and it will all start on Saturday with 5 Calbred Stakes races. Don't forget, there's additional racing at Santa Anita this week with Monday racing and some good stakes races on Monday. Let's dive on into one of those 5 Calbred or Cal-sired stakes races for Saturday. We're going to take a look at the Crystal Water. This is going to go as race number 4 on the Saturday card, and I think we'll have a heavy favorite in this one with Kings River Knight, who's just in such fantastic form right now. I'm always trying to beat horses like this who are going to be really short prices, but he has so little to knock in this particular race because not only is he in good form and super classy, but if we take a look at the Timeform US pace projector, I mean, he should be right out on the front end. And our friends at Timeform US actually have Clouseau putting a little pressure on Kings River Knight in here. If he does, that could change the complexion of the race a little bit. I just don't know if Clouseau is even as quick as Kings River Knight. Another factor in this, Kings River Knight also has no problem sitting off the pace a little bit. So if Clouseau wanted to get really aggressive, Hernandez could just back Kings River Knight off, sit right behind him, and probably get a really nice trip. It just doesn't look on paper like there's a lot of speed up front. So even if there is maybe one other foe that puts a little pressure on Kings River Knight, he still does look pretty classy in here, and like he'll be able to kind of dictate this race. So we can go through the field now and take a look at the runners in race number 4 for Saturday, which is the Crystal Water. And we start from the inside with the number 1, Barely Functional, which is a really great name for a horse. This horse's last couple efforts have been pretty good when you look at the recent form on the turf. Now, coming off of a 3rd place finish, saved all the ground, got a really good trip. But the problem was that day he lost to a horse named Old Pal, and he's going to have to deal with a little bit more than just Old Pal in this race. So if you're looking for horses that could sit really nice trips, maybe outrun their odds and hit the board at a good price, I think this could be one of them. As far as getting him into the win end, though, I do think he'll need to show some improvement in here as we move from Barely Functional to the number 2, that is Coalinga Road. Coalinga Road's 0 for the last 7, and that's one of the things that you'll see with this field. You have a lot of horses in here who just don't have good winning form, and then you have a horse like Kings River Knight, who's a 9-time winner, and a horse like Old Pal, who we'll talk about, who's 3 for 5. Coalinga Road, 0 for the last 7, just 1 for the last 15 overall, including a couple runner-up efforts behind Kings River Knight. So 3rd start off a long layoff after a 9-month break. That could be a big positive. We could expect to see a step forward here from Coalinga Road. But to me, again, just another one that looks more like an under horse. I can't really build that much of a case for him having to come from way out of it in here. We move to the 3, None Above the Law. And again, if you stop me if you've heard this one before, a horse who's just not been winning a lot lately. 0 for the last 18. The last win for this one came back in September of 2021. Hasn't hit the board in the last 5, including races on the turf and on the dirt. So while he is coming out of some tough races, he just is going to need a form reversal in here to hit the board, or I think to be really competitive at all. We move to the favorite, and I think the very logical horse who will be the overwhelming favorite in here, and that's the number 4, Kings River Knight. Lucia has a backtrack for us of Kings River Knight to take a look at, and this is what you'll see in a lot of his past performances. He's up front, he's winning races. I just don't know who pushes him on the lead. He's defeated 5 of his rivals that he'll face in this race. He loves Santa Anita. He's won 4 of 6 races there. And his recent form, he's beating horses who are coming back and winning. Cathkin Peak came back to win an optional 80, non-winners of 2 next time out. Horse named Zaffarelli, who he defeated that day, came back in the 2nd start after being defeated by Kings River Knight. So if you wanted to poke some holes in him, we could say that he has 3 months off, and maybe if he gets some other pace pressure, that could soften him up a little bit. But as we've seen, 3 starts back, he sits off the pace. He has no problem sitting 2nd and then moving to the lead. He is going to be very tough in here. You won't be getting rich with Kings River Knight, but he's very, very logical, and he's going to be so difficult to get around. Let's move to one of his top rivals in this spot, and that's Old Pal. And from a tactic standpoint, it's going to be the complete opposite from Kings River Knight, who is going to be either on the lead or sitting very close. Old Pal, he is a deeper closer, and we have a backtrack of Old Pal, as you can see, where things will open up very nicely for him. He's moving in behind horses, and the field will split, and he'll quickly make up a lot of ground. He was also in a race with the rival Barely Functional, who was down on the rail, and we talked about just a few minutes ago. Here's Old Pal down the center of the track, and you can see it's kind of handled confidently, like a very well-timed ride, like always looked like he was going to get up there. And when you look at his form overall, he's very tough to knock. He's 3 for 5. He's hit the board in all of his starts. He's never run a bad race, but he's not that fast early on. So the way this race shapes up, it may not play all too well for him. He's also a horse that has to get a little bit faster on the Beyer speed figures. So he'll have to improve. And he's in a race that just doesn't seem like it's going to set up all that well for him. I respect his ability tons. He beat Open Company in his first start as at 4. And so I do think he will improve, but it's probably not going to be enough to win this race the way it'll play out. From Old Pal, we move to another classy one right next door. That's Carmelita's Man. This horse has earned over $600,000 throughout his career, but he's just won for his last 12. And a lot of it has to do with his running style. He's another one who's a deeper closer, who's going to drop back and who's going to make one late run. And he needs some pace help in order to get there. Now, a positive for him, he's actually defeated Kings River Knight before. So he has the ability to beat the heavy favorite in this race. I just don't think this is the type of race. When they go fast early, you like Carmelita's Man, and I'm just not sure they're going to be doing that in this particular race. Right next door is Passerando, the number 7, who comes in from Golden Gate. This one will go back to the turf, and I think he has some upside on the grass. Only has a couple starts and wasn't all that far behind Kings River Knight when he sat close on the grass last time they faced. We have a replay of Passerando in his last start. This was up at Golden Gate on April the 27th. And what you'll notice when you're looking at his DRF past performances, he's just been facing really sharp horses as of late. He lost to a horse named Rim Protector in this race, who has won 2 in a row. Prior to that, he lost to a horse named Lamas, who has won 3 in a row and won the Grade 3 San Francisco Mile. You see Bletchley Park in there, who has won 3 straight. So he's just been getting defeated by very, very sharp ones. And the positive for Passerando is that he does have some upside on the grass. Could offer you a little bit of value at 20-1 on the morning line. Right next door, I guess we could say is the key to the race, and that's Clouseau, who's a very quick horse and has the ability to show some early speed if they ask him to. And he may be the only horse in here who can put some pressure on Kings River Knight. He only has 3 races on the turf, so another one who maybe has a little upside on the grass, but he's 0 for his last 9, and he would really need to improve to get the better of this group. He's been facing good horses on the dirt. He gets the blinkers coming off and a first-time gelding. So some switches, hoping to get some improvement out of him. But at the very least, you'd hope for a pace factor as him if you're using him in any type of exotics. I just don't know if he's fast enough or good enough to compete. I think the really interesting long shot in this race is Babe to the outside, the number 9 in here. He's a horse who is always been competitive. He just hasn't been a win machine. And he put it all together last time out in his first start for Richard Baltus. I thought this was a very nice effort where he was sitting just off the pace and he moved to the lead and just kind of pushed by. What could be a real positive for him in this race is his running style. I don't think he'll be very far out of it with the outside draw. I'd love to see him sitting 2nd or 3rd in here. He's going to make his 2nd start back after a 9-month layoff. So if you think about the time that he missed, it was a lot of that growth and development time from the second half of his 4-year-old season all the way into the early part of the 5-year-old season. I think if you're trying to beat Kings River Knight, or if you're looking for a horse to spice up some of the exotics, to me, you want to go to the outside with Babe, who comes out of a race where he beat a next out winner, and he could get the type of trip that you need to run really well in here. So overall, I wish I could be a little bit more creative in this race. Unfortunately, I do think Kings River Knight is the horse to beat when we take a look at our selections. And from a gambling standpoint, this probably wouldn't be one of the races where I'm necessarily betting this horse to win. But if you are trying to find some value in here, I think you'd want to go to the number 9, Babe, who I have as my 2nd selection. The way we play this race with our top selections, I'm going to go 4, 9, 5, 6. Those will be my top 4 in here. Looking for some value. I think Babe from the outside could sit the perfect trip. The other logical horses, Old Pal and Carmelita's Man, they need to improve a little bit. and they need to get the trip. I'm just not sure if they're going to get the pace meltdown in order for them to come running late. So if you're trying to find some value, let's see if we can get it from a horse tripping out in here from the outside. Best of luck when you're playing race 4 at Santa Anita on Saturday at the Crystal Water.